Hi everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm Reynolds with the first of 4 fiddle lessons. This first fiddle lesson I'm going to talk about the bowing arm. Second lesson I'm going to talk about the fingering arm. Third lesson I will reveal the keys to the musical universe. And the fourth lesson is going to be philosophy behind lessons and behind learning this instrument. Obviously I ain't the greatest player in the world, but I'm a better instructor than a player. And I have some tips that can especially help out beginning and intermediate students. These tips are going to address the mechanics behind playing the fiddle. The mechanics are important because they underlie everything else. One of the underlying themes for which we will strive, will be to use as few muscles as possible and also to always provide a stable platform. So starting out with the right arm. There are 3 muscles that will be used in the control of the bow, not counting the grip. I'll talk about the grip last. But the 3 muscles, this muscle up here controls the height of the arm, and there are 7 different heights. There's a height for the E string, E, A double stop, A, D double stop, D, G double stop, G. 7 different heights, all controlled by this. Some beginning students, you may feel tempted to change your bow height by lifting your arm. Don't do that. Control the height of the arm with this muscle here. The forward strokes and downward strokes will be controlled by 2 other muscles independently. For quarter notes, we'll just use this muscle here and just flip that, just this muscle here, right on the wrist, up and down for quarter notes. When this muscle is used, this muscle should not be used. For any notes longer than a quarter note, we'll use this muscle here. We will contract that muscle for the up bow, relax the muscle for the down bow. These are independent. You either use this or you use this. Don't use them both at the same time. So on an up bow on the A, just contract this muscle and relax this muscle for the down bow. Don't move this. There may be times at the end of an up bow when you run out of room and you have to move your forward arm forward a little bit. Sometimes that can't be avoided, but avoid it at all costs. Up bow, down bow. On a shuffle, you have 2 quarter notes and a half note. The 2 quarter notes are the wrist. The half note is the elbow muscle. So, to slow this down, doon 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 doon. That's also greatly exaggerated, but that's the movement you basically want to do. Wrist for the quarter notes, elbow muscle, the opposite side of the elbow muscle for anything longer than that. Doon doon doon. The grip. If you hold the bow as thinly as you can, there's very little control that you have over the bow. So the concept here is to get as much space on this bow as possible. So when I took violin lessons 50 years ago, not to date myself, I was taught to put my thumb in this little nook here. These days, I put my thumb underneath the frog. And I wrap these fingers around, and the little finger I place on the tip. That gives a nice wide and thick area. The more area you have control over the fulcrum, the more control you have over the lever. An up bow is not exactly the opposite of a down bow. If you watch all the good fiddle players, when they get to the up bow, their wrist is always bent. On down bows, their wrist isn't bent. On an up bow, you're just contracting this muscle and lifting the bow. On a down bow, I do just a slight shift of the hand to put the pressure right there so it drags the bow down. Up bow, lift it, down bow. This little finger on the end, it's a nice little leverage device. It helps control the bow when you place the bow down on the strings. Here's what your goal is when you practice this. Your goal is to be able to put the bow on the strings without bouncing. And I'm not perfect at that. And another goal is to be able to get a smooth note. And I'm not perfect at that either. Notice that my bow speed is very slow. Classical musicians are taught to use the whole bow. I'm teaching you, don't use that much bow. The bow speed is not, the less bow speed, the better. My instructor used to tell me, you're using too much bow. Slow it down. You slow it down, you get that control. Here's a quick recap. 3 muscles are, not counting the grip, 3 muscles are used. This muscle for the height, this for the inside elbow muscle for any notes longer than an 1/8 note, the wrist muscle for the 1/8 notes. Keep these 2 separate. It's either this or this, not both. The grip, my recommendation, get as wide a grip as possible. Do not squeeze the bow. You should not be squeezing the bow. It's just a nice loose grip. That pinky on top at the end gives a nice control over that bow. Do not squeeze this. This needs to be nice and smooth. Practice that, and when you come up with a good grip, you should be ready for your right arm. This is lesson number 1. Stay tuned for lesson number 2, where I talk about the left hand. I'm Reynolds. Rap with you later.